Broadcasting from the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio. What is up? I'm Jim Rome. A tremendous Thursday to you. What's going on now? O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. So great. It is good to be with you today. Got a great show for you. We have been going hard. The XR4 Ti and I are ready to do this thing. What about you? Your telephone number is 1-800-636-8686. The NFL gets around to suspending Ray Rice. I will start with that in a moment. If you want to talk about that or something else, once again, 1-800-636-8686. You are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and tweet directly at the program. Tweet at Jim Rome. Email us at Rome, R-O-M-E, at habitate.com. And also go to facebook.com/Jim Rome. My thoughts on Ray Rice in one moment. We nearly had the greatest moment in the history of Major League Baseball last night. Came up just short. I will have that story. Later on this hour, Sacramento Kings guard Ray McCallum. Coming up next hour, NFL columnist Mike Freeman. And in hour number 3, Hornets general manager Rich Cho. This is how it's setting up. It's actually been a pretty good week in the way of phone calls. Well, to be fair, it's been a pretty good week in the way of very bad phone calls. A memorable week. Let's put it that way. My point is, I've been taking telephone calls this week, and it's been pretty interesting. And I don't want to stop right now. The number is toll-free. I'm looking for your phone calls. Let me start with Ray Rice. According to numerous reports, the NFL has suspended Ray Rice for 2 games after being indicted for third-degree assault on his fiancée. The first 2 games of the year. 2 games for knocking out his lady and dragging her out of an elevator in Las Vegas. One of the worst things ever, and captured on video for everybody to see. And for that, he gets 2 games. It's got to be a typo, right? 2 games. Because that's not a punishment, that's a joke. Browns receiver Josh Gordon is reportedly meeting with the league on August 1st to appeal his season-long suspension for drug use. But Ray Rice will be back on the field in week 3. So in Roger Goodell's world, cold cocking your lady is bad. It's just not as bad as burning blunts or shooting roids. And I don't want to hear that the stoners who received longer suspensions were repeat offenders and that Ray Rice has no previous record. Knocking your fiancée out once, knocking her out once, and dragging her out of an elevator while she is unconscious is much worse than failing a couple of pot tests. Does the league need to see Ray Rice knock her out a second time before it finally comes down hard on domestic violence? The league had a chance to do the right thing and send the right message, yet it failed miserably. Because the message I'm getting is, it's better to punch your wife in the head than to be one and burn blunts. Or, as former NFLer Scott Fujita tweeted, quote, "The message to my wife and 3 daughters today, the business that has been such a big part of our life really does not give a bleep about you." 1-800-636-8686. I mean, how twisted and backwards is that? Smoking dope a couple of times is going to get you a much longer suspension than knocking out your fiancée and dragging her out of an elevator that's on tape that we all saw? Speaking of Fujita, we had him on our Showtime program, and we talked about this very topic, and he was hot then. I'm not surprised to see his tweet today, because we talked about this a few weeks back, and he came in hot.
The Ray Rice thing, you kidding me? And I have respect for that guy. I mean, that guy. Are you kidding me? Well, I got 3 daughters.
The Ray Rice
I think
issue.
we'd all agree it's the most gutless thing you could possibly do.
I got 3 daughters.
Yeah, the Ray Rice issue, that's one he'll never be able to expunge from his resume.
Fujita, I mean, he just kept saying, bleep that guy. I respect him, but bleep that guy. I have 3 daughters. Bleep that guy. So he gets 2 games for that. Just 2 games. I mean, even the Ravens apparently were preparing for 3. Because that would have been so terrible, right? 3. Yeah, well, that's 2 for Ray. And if your first thought in response to this was, how are they going to replace him? Or if your first thought was, should I still draft him? I guarantee that was most of your first thoughts. Should I still draft him? It's unbelievable to me. Your thoughts on it. Let's get into this. Dear Jim, yes, Jim, we apologize. 2 games was a terrible typo. What we meant to write was 2 preseason games. Very sorry. Signed Big Raj. Nick in Dallas. War Raj knocking this down to 2 quarters if Rice doesn't turn any other women's lights out before week 1. You know, I think you try to look at the big picture, and you look at Ray Rice. First-time offender, good guy, good player, good teammate, good leader. You know, all these things you would say about Ray Rice had this not happened. Active in the community, gives back, one of the good guys. And I think probably all true. However, all that goodwill in the bank does not erase what happened. And what happened was he knocked his fiancée out. Knocked her cold. She was unconscious. And was seen dragging her out of an elevator in Vegas. This is not hearsay. This is not innuendo. We have video. We saw it. And I don't care how many autographs you've signed, or how good of a player you are, or how good of a guy you've been. You do that, you pay for it. Or even how much charity work you do. 1-800-636-8686. All right. In addition to that, July typically is one of the worst sporting months on the calendar. Typically a dead time for sports. Typically, but not now. We're having a good summer in that regard, and especially in the way of college football. I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit later on. Also, I don't know about you. I'm a little bit hungover this morning. I can't lie to you. I am hanging. I'm a little bit hungover this morning, but not for drinking. Didn't drink anything last night. It's more of an emotional hangover. I'm in a fog. I'm emotionally hungover from last night because July 23rd, 2014 is a night that we will never forget. One that would have gone down historically. I'll explain what I mean by that in a few moments. Hey, Rome. I have said this amongst my friends for years, and I've yet to be proven wrong. The dumbest people in the world are athletes, and the dumbest athletes in the world are football players. Ray Rice throwing hands at his fiancée. Justin Blackmon popped for possession of the hippie lettuce. Arrested again. When will these idiots learn? Ryan in the 818. It's not all athletes, and it's not all football players. I actually thought Ray Rice was one of the brighter guys. Justin Blackmon's got some real problems. I mean, I need for this guy to stop getting arrested. I really would like for Justin Blackmon to stop getting arrested and get some help. I want him to stop getting loaded and stop getting behind the wheel of his car. I want him to do it before he maims himself or somebody else. He just got picked up again. That's now 3 arrests since 2010. We are talking about the former 5th pick overall in the draft. 3 arrests since 2010, and it's pretty clear that this dude likes tree way more than he likes football. He likes the hippie lettuce way more than he likes football. He likes to bake more than he likes to play, and he's very, very, very good at football. Wake up and sober up stat, Jay. You can ill afford one more bad decision. You can ill afford this last bad decision. Rome, we think Ray Rice's 2-game suspension makes perfect sense. That should do the trick. Ordering a Diet Coke with a Big Mac and fries, washing your car on a rainy day, and pressing buttons harder on a remote when the batteries are dying. Nick and the Natty. You know, again, they'll try and argue. The flip side of this is he's never gotten into trouble. He's one of the good guys. He's a first-time offender. Me personally, I'm going to weigh out first-time offender versus multiple offender of bud. Somebody who smokes pot more than once and gets busted is not worse to me than somebody who knocks their wife out or fiance out once. That's my sliding scale. But in the NFL, smoking pot repeatedly is worse. Yeah, I'm not worried about you killing a few brain cells. I am worried about somebody killing their wife, though. All right, in addition to that, I want to talk about Terrell Suggs, T-Sizz. T-Sizzle's got a theory on Joe Flacco, a theory of how he could be better, what he wants him to do. I will explain that to you. How about Jamal Charles? That never works, right? Holdouts do not work. You can't threaten a holdout and get paid, right? Wrong. It worked. Not only did it work for this guy, I'm shocked that it worked in the sense that he's playing a position that is allegedly devalued in the NFL. You know how it is. Running backs grow on trees. You can pull any running back off a scrap heap, get him to rush for 8, 9, maybe 1,000 yards. Jamal Charles getting closer and closer to 30. No way he can leverage them. Wrong. Not only did he get a new deal, I think they were right to give it to him. And one of the all-time beefs, honestly, one of the great beefs of all time. Dean Cain v. Matt Leinart. Who you got? And one baseball note. Hey, Philly, I wouldn't mind your thoughts on this at all. Philadelphia, listeners to IP, where do you come out on reports that Philadelphia is not only trying to trade Ryan Howard, but probably will not be able to and might just cut him outright? Ryan Howard might just cut him outright. They owe him $60 million over the next 2 years. But $60 million and the rest of this year's contract, which is $25 million. I mean, good guy, bad player right now. But how much would you have to hate a guy as a player to pay him $60 million just to go away? Honestly. And you think the guy can turn it around because Ryan Howard's the one saying, hey, look, I own it. I'm having a bad year. I'm not right. I get that. I understand that. But just know, you guys have seen me in the past. You know I can go on a tear. And if I go on one of my tears and I hit 10 or 11 home runs in 1 month, all of a sudden I'm a 35 home run guy. Just know that. Good guy, not a good player anymore, and I'm not sure he's got that tear in him. But would you light $60 million on fire? Rome, 2 games. 2 games. So in today's league, Ray Caruth would get what? 4 games? Way to go, Roger. Josh in the Motor City via the now talentless South Beach. Come on now, you still got Chris Bosh. You got Douanier. Josh freaking McRoberts is in town. Shabazz. Did you not see Shabazz? It's not so bad. You're still a playoff team. You are not talentless. You're just not as talented as, I don't know, Cleveland. Speaking of the East, you see where Roy Hibbert is now working with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Go get it, Roy. I'd love to see those 2 guys, like 18 feet between them, fishing. Wonder if Kareem will take him fishing. Take his mind off things. If that or take him to Chatsworth or Van Nuys. It's where the magic happens, Roy. Hey, Roy. Roy, you got to demand the ball. You have to demand the ball. I understand that passes into the post were terrible last year, but you got to go out there and demand that ball. Hey, Roy, do you like hardcore pornography?
What is X?
No, Kareem, that's not right. I can't wait till Roy just starts skyhooking everybody next year. It's going to be awesome. Hey, Roy, when a fan comes up to you, listen to me, Roy. You're out here to work with me, right? Right, Kareem? All right, the next time a fan comes up to you and asks you for an autograph, stare right through them. Burn a hole in them with your eyes and do not answer. You got to start focusing on you. If they try to shake your hand, leave them hanging. If they tell you that they're a fan, tell them to get out of your face. Ray McCallum, later on this hour. Mike Freeman next hour. Rich Cho in the 3rd hour. Let's do this. When you are the top dog in your business, you see all the very best deals first. It's plain, it's simple, and that's why some of the leading floor manufacturers in the world come to Lumber Liquidators before anybody else does. Because Lumber Liquidators is the undisputed champion of flooring. Well, they just acquired truckloads of amazing deals from brands like Armstrong, and they're passing the savings along to you this week only. How about clearance flooring for just 29 cents a square foot? We're talking about a little more than a shiny quarter per a square foot. Or solid 3/4 inch pre-finished gun stock oak for just $1.89 a square foot. Would you like an easy to install option? How about quick click pre-finished gun stock oak for only $1.59 a square foot? These are some of the deals going on this week at your local Lumber Liquidators, but you've got to get in before they're gone. They're not going to last. Be sure that once you're there, you ask about their special 18-month financing on qualified purchases. To find a store near you, go to lumberliquidators.com, lumberliquidators.com. I'm still trying to make sense of how players who bake can get several game suspensions or maybe even up to a year. But a guy can knock out his fiancée and then drag her out of an elevator. I said Las Vegas. That's not right, of course. It's Atlantic City. And get 2 games. This guy writes, Rome, I can explain this to you. You see, the difference between baking and spousal abuse is that you can hide being a wife beater. You can pretend to not be a total coward, but you can't pretend you aren't high. So that fact that you can pretend means it should carry a low sentence. It makes perfect sense. Thanks. That idiot caller in Albuquerque from 2 days ago.
When you look at gay people, when you look at homosexuality, these people, they're different from everybody else. That's just the way it is. Almost similar to somebody that has a disease or a syndrome. And I want to kind of compare it to, like Down syndrome, except the difference is that somebody with Down syndrome, they can't pretend to be normal. That's the way they are. When you have somebody that's gay or homosexual, they can pretend to be straight. They can pretend, they can choose to be straight. Somebody that's African American, they can't choose or pretend to be white. That's just the way that they are. So as far as him having a choice, I believe he does have a choice. And I don't think it's fair to people that do have Down syndrome or that do have a disease that they are, in fact, born with, because they don't have a choice. They can't pretend and shake it off like nothing's wrong.
Ah, I see. You get the feeling that guy he was just doing that, and I just kind of let him go out there and just do his thing. That he's thinking to himself, I'm killing it, I'm killing it, I'm killing it. Preach. Preach. I've sat here at this desk, the proverbial desk, be at this desk, another desk, and another studio, but I've sat at this desk for more than 20 years, and I've heard a lot of bad takes. That might be the worst take ever. And I've heard a lot of bad takes. I've read a lot of bad takes. I've heard a lot of bad takes. I've heard them on the radio. I've seen them via Twitter. I've received them via email, snail mail back in the day, face-to-face on the street. I've heard a lot of bad takes. That might be the worst one ever. I am the Walrus tweets at Jim Rome. Hey, Ray Rice. Time to... Oh, wait. You only got 2 games. That's messed up. Never mind. Yours, Axel. Time to... Take 2 games and get ready. Ted in Pittsburgh at Jim Rome. Dear NFLers, when you get mad, don't smoke weed to relax. Just assault your girlfriend and wife. It'll get you a lower suspension. Signed, Roger. You know that whole rap about pot's not bad? It's really not that bad. Look across the country. More and more states are legalizing it. Medicinally, recreationally. It's not as bad as booze. Guys need to relax somehow. So it's not as bad as it seems. Yeah, but in the NFL it is. Yeah, but guys do it in the NFL because they want to take the edge off. They want to relax. Yeah, but if the penalty is more punitive for smoking dope, maybe I should relax by, quote, beating my wife. Can I tell you something? Hey, Raj, think about this. It's much more punitive in your world to burn blunts. Yet around the rest of the nation, states are easing their laws. It's become permissible to use it medicinally and even recreationally. As I look around this great country, I don't see any state easing the law on domestic violence, medicinally or recreationally. Don't see that. Eric Fortman at Jim Rome. Hey, Jim. So Ray Rice beat his wife. But he's straight, right? Let me get at him. Yours, Tony Dungy. Wow. What are your thoughts? I'll take the other side. So far, everybody's coming in hot on that one side. I know somebody's going to come in and defend it. I know somebody's going to come in here and say he had a bad night. It's a first-time offense. He's a great guy. He's active in the community. He gives back. Somebody will try. Yeah, I get all that. I'm recognizing all that. And until this happened, this is why I used to say this is one of the good guys. You're not, can I tell you something? If you knock your fiancée out, if you knock her cold, and then you drag her out of an elevator, that's not a bad night. You're a bad guy. That's not a bad night. You're a really bad guy. Period. 1-800-636-8686. How many of you, honestly, I mean, be straight. How many of you are like, all right, yeah, that's fine, Rome. That's great. Get off your soapbox. That's fine, Rome. Check the schedule. Those are 2 tough games. Check the schedule. I guarantee the commissioner did not check the schedule. And if he did, he's even more jacked up than I thought. It's neither here nor there. Who they play is totally irrelevant. Who they play is totally immaterial. It's the number of games. You're fine, Rome. Anyway, should I draft him or not? That's the issue. Hey, Rome, do your homework. You see some of this crap that's coming in. Do your homework. One of those games is a primetime game. So that's therefore really worth 2 games. No, it's not. 2, that's 2 for him. 2 games are 2 games, no matter when or where they're played. No matter who they're against. 2 games. What I'm saying is the punishment does not fit that crime. When we come back, we'll talk some NBA ball. Ray McCallum, point guard for the Sacramento Kings, joins me next. Got plenty of time for your phone calls on this or any other topic, but Ray McCallum comes first. That's next. You're in the jungle, and this is CBS Sports Radio. I am Jim Rome. What's up? Welcome back. Summer temps place added stress on your battery, especially one that is about to fail. So get your battery tested for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Let's talk some basketball. I'm joined by a point guard for the Sacramento Kings. He was the MVP of the Las Vegas Summer League. 29 points, 9 rebounds in the title game. He was the 36th player taken overall in 2013 out of Detroit. Sacramento point guard Ray McCallum is my guest. Ray, it's good to have you. How are things?
Really well. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you, Ray. Thank you. All right, so you came into the Summer League off a rookie year where you didn't see a ton of time early on, but in the final weeks, you really got it going. You had a couple of 20-point games. So what was your mindset going to Las Vegas?
Coming in last year as a rookie, like you said, I didn't get to play that much and got my opportunity towards the end of the season. Try to take full advantage and make the most of it. This summer, just put a lot of hard work in with my coaching staff and my team, and I wanted to come down to Vegas and try to win the whole thing. I knew we had a good team coming in, and my previous year, my rookie season, we only won 1 game in the whole tournament. So the organization put together a really good team, and we were able to come out on top and win it all. So it was good for Sacramento.
All right, so good for Sacramento and a really good summer for you in that regard. You come away from that as the Summer League champs. Now, it doesn't guarantee you anything in the regular season, but do you feel like there's some momentum that comes along with it, and can you build on that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it was great for the organization. The Kings have struggled with, the past 8 years. Anytime you can win, whether it's Summer League, whatever, you're competing with real refs and it's a real game is big. And it's something that we can build on and bring some positive energy coming into training camp. So looking forward to the season next year.
Ray McCallum joining us. Hey, Ray, what's it like in Las Vegas in the summertime? I mean, for instance, you're there to work. I mean, you're there to take advantage of the opportunity, but it is Vegas. It's easy to get caught up. So do you go there like it's a business trip, or do you try and enjoy it as well?
Oh, yeah. No, it was definitely a business trip. We were there for 17 days. It was a long July, but it was a lot of fun. We went there, had our mini camp out there a week before the tournament started.
And the good thing about it is we had some of our veterans come out there and practice with us. Reggie Evans, Rudy Gay, DeMarcus Cousins, Carl Landry, and all those guys came out, which meant a lot to us. And our training camp was tough, with those guys being there, they're pushing us each and every day. Our coaching staff was on us, and, we didn't have time to go hang out. It wasn't one of those trips where we're trying to hang out and have fun. It was a business, and, we were able to go out there and accomplish our goal and win it.
17 days normally does not seem like it's that long, but 17 days in Vegas, and like when the rest of us go to Vegas, or maybe if you go to Vegas in your off time, you go there, you hit it pretty hard, you blow it out, and then after 2 or 3 days, you're like, I gotta bust out of here. 17 days in Las Vegas, even if you're there to work, sounds like 17 months.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a long time, and it was really hot. But it all paid off by winning it, and being able to hold up that trophy at the end. So all the hard work and the long days, it was worth it.
Sacramento Kings point guard Ray McCallum joining us. Ray, I had your GM, Pete D'Alessandro, on the show a few weeks back, and after that conversation, the response from Kings fans was just amazing. What's it like to play then in Sacramento and for a fan base that cares as much and wants it as badly as the Kings fans do?
It's been great. Obviously, we finished third to last in the West this year, and we weren't going to make the playoffs, and most of our games were sold out. All the fans came out and showed their love and support. And that just shows, that we have, arguably the best fans in the NBA. And it's a lot of fun going out there and playing in front of them every night. And they bring great energy, and they make it fun to play in front of. So just having a fan base there and everything that the organization's trying to do to move in the right direction, some big things are coming Sacramento's way pretty soon.
So looking ahead to next season, you just won the MVP award in the Summer League play. The team dealt Isaiah Thomas a guard to the Suns, but they signed Darren Collison. So how do you see your role with the team this coming season?
It's the business, and all you can really control is yourself. Try to compete every day and bring your A game every day. That's something I've always done, just try to show I'm a winner, competitor, and just go out there and do whatever's best for the team and whatever they need me to do, and try to help out as much as I can and win as many games as possible.
Ray, your background's really interesting to me in the sense that you were an elite prospect coming out of high school, you were heavily recruited, and you had your pick of schools, and the story goes that the Final Four were Arizona, UCLA, Florida, and Detroit. Now, for those who don't know the story, you end up in Detroit. It seems like a strange choice given the other ones, but there's a story behind it. How'd you end up there?
Yeah, it was quite crazy my senior year in high school, trying to decide what school to choose. It was tough. I had a lot of high major offers. So I was McDonald's All-American, and I chose to stay home and go to a small school and play for my father at the University of Detroit. A lot of people were shocked and surprised, but deep down at the end of the day, it was, staying home and playing for my father, who I trusted and knew had my best interest, and it worked out great. Got to play for him for 3 years. Took Detroit to the NCAA tournament, something the school hadn't done in 13 years. And my final year, my junior year, we went to NIT. So, getting 2 postseason runs was great for the city of Detroit and the university as well. And then no better place to do it than playing alongside my father.
It's a great experience. What was it like doing recruiting? For instance, when other schools came in, was your father there with you to listen to their pitch? And how did that whole thing play out?
Yeah, it was very awkward at first. Having in-home visits, Billy Donovan, Ben Howland, guys coming in, sitting at my kitchen table with my mom and my dad on my left and right, them sitting across from me and, showing their pitch of how they wanted me to go to their school. And knowing my dad said he was thinking the same thing. But it was fun. It was enjoyable. I took, 4 official visits, and my dad was, through the whole process, just my dad. And he treated me like a parent and was there to support me the whole entire way. But at the end of the day, I was loyal to him and stayed home and played for him.
Ray McCallum, my guest, you laid this out, but let me just point out one more time. As a sophomore, you led the team to the Horizon Conference title and an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. It's not a national championship, but it was the school's first trip to the tournament in 13 years. In a way, did it feel like maybe you'd kind of won a national title or something close to it?
Yeah, it was an exciting time. Definitely for the university and the whole city. You could feel the excitement and the love that they had. Just bringing some hope back to the university and trying to move the program in the right direction. And I know my father had been there. I want to say about 2 to 3 years before I got there. And I could see them chipping away and kind of creeping their way up to the top of the Horizon League. And I was glad to be a part of that, and it was something special that we'll always remember.
All right, so you got a big win in Las Vegas. What do you do for the rest of the summer?
This week, take a little time off, just relax, enjoy some time with my family, and soon get back in the gym and try to get better. Do it on the summer. Just been putting in a lot of hard work, trying to get ready for next season, and just try to compete and get better each and every day.
Having a good summer so far. The MVP of the Las Vegas Summer League, Ray McCallum, our guest. Ray, great to have you. Nice job. Good to have you on the show.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's do it again soon, Ray. Well done. Sacramento Kings fans, your thoughts on that? He goes to Las Vegas. They win the title. He gets the MVP. 29-9 in the championship game. Mature young guy. Stayed home to play for his dad instead of going to Florida or UCLA. Can you imagine that? Arizona, UCLA, Florida, and Detroit, and stayed home. And recruiting with your dad right there. I wonder if they turned that thing around, like if dad knocked on the front door and came in and sat down at the kitchen table and had to convince mom that I had your son's best interest in mind. You got to win the mom. Have to win the mom over. Hey, coach, can I get you something to drink? No, I'm dad. No, today you're coach. Make yourself at home, coach. Well, I am home. I bought this house. No. If that's how this is going to go, this is not going to go well. Can I get you something to drink, coach? Iced tea, coffee? Yeah, I think I'll have a beer. I know where they are. Coach? I wonder what happens when you give your kid money, or if you give your kid food, or if you take your kid out to dinner, or if you text your kid out of season. Are those not NCAA violations? Are you coach or are you dad? How's the NCAA handle that? What if your dad is your coach and you buy the kid a car? What if your dad is ultimately your coach and you once said to the kid, if you get into a good college, I'll buy you a car? Whoa. That doesn't sound right. All right, stay with it. We are wide open until 40 past next hour, which means there's time for you to get through. I want to wrap up this hour, but when we come back, I want to get into what could have been, and what would have been the single greatest moment in Major League Baseball history, and we just missed. That story's coming up. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to
Ray McCallum. I think this emailer brings up something very reasonable. We don't know for certain, but it's a very reasonable point. Rome. First-time offenses don't start with all-out assault on a loved one in a public place. This is just the first time his behavior has had an audience. I guarantee Ray Rice engaged in this behavior before if he's getting that out of control in a place like Atlantic City. Nate and Savannah, we don't know that to be true. But does that seem unreasonable to you? All right, so he knocked out his fiancée, knocked her out cold, dragged her out of an elevator in Atlantic City. Are you going to assume that's the first time that's ever happened? Did that never happen? He just snapped. Snapped in a public place. Never had that happen before. It's like drunk driving. Yeah, I did it once. I've only done it once, and I happened to get caught that one time I did it. I've never, ever had a drink and gotten behind the wheel of a car, but the one time I did it, I got nailed. Maybe, possibly, probably not. The dudes on To Catch a Predator say the same thing all the time. I have never, ever done anything like this before. Ever. And I knew I shouldn't have done it. That's why I never had done it. If you let me go, I will never, ever do it again, because I never did it before today. I knew it was a mistake. I knew it. Now, so are we to assume, because a lot of you are making the argument that, well, that's because he was a first-time offense. Good guy, gives back, charitable, good leader, good teammate, great guy, had a bad night, one bad night. I wonder, one bad night or first time he got caught? You know, it's not helping, by the way, that his fiance's up there, like, apologizing for being a distraction. Like, I'm sorry, it's all good, it's fine. Not gonna be fine. He turned your lights out, he knocked you out, and dragged you out of an elevator in a public place, and it's on video and everybody saw it. Oh, yeah, I know. It's between the two of them. Right. It is. I just don't really know how you work past that. What are you afraid of losing? What are you giving up? He knocked you out. And again, that's not one bad night. That's a bad dude. To get to that place, I mean, you might argue with your wife. You might have trouble. You might have bad times. You might have to work through it. You might get some help. You don't punch your wife out. You don't hit a woman, ever. So that's not a bad night. That's a bad dude. And 2 games to me is a joke. You've got guys getting multiple games, entire seasons for smoking pot. But a guy who gets 2 games for punching out his wife, dragging her out of an elevator, and it's right there on video for everybody to see. I can't reconcile that. That makes no sense to me. I'm waiting for the commissioner to explain that. Justify that. Explain that. How does that make sense? Because it doesn't make sense to reasonable people. All right, we'll come back and I'll open the thing up. Big fat segment to start hour number 2, and we are wide open. You're in the jungle. Thank you for listening to CBS Sports Radio. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio, I am Jim Rome. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. What's cracking? What's up? Welcome back. We go to our second hour. First hour we spent talking about Ray Rice getting a 2-game suspension, reportedly, after being indicted for third-degree assault on his fiancée. I'm trying to make sense of this, and I just can't do it. Josh Gordon is looking at a 1-year suspension for pot. Sure, repeated offenses, but it seems to me one offense of knocking out your fiancée and dragging her out of a public elevator is worse than repeated offenses of hitting the bong. It is in my world. It is in most people's worlds, but not in Roger Goodell's, apparently. And I still want to hear the explanation. And I've got a feeling I know what it's going to be. A, he's not a repeat offender. B, good guy, goodwill in the bank, charitable, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I really don't care. All of the good that he has done is offset by one bad night when you punch out your fiancé. Feel strongly about that. That's not a bad night. You're a bad guy. And somebody just emailed and said, come on, man, wake up. If you got caught doing that in a public place, do you really think that's the first time that's happened? I can't determine whether or not it is. I think it's a reasonable question to ask, though. All right, so I'm going to take your thoughts on it. I want to move on to some other things, too. And then I'll go to the phones. We've got Mike Freeman coming up later on this hour. Rich Cho, who is the GM of the Hornets, next hour. We had Sacramento King Ray McCallum last hour. All right, let me lighten the load for one moment. Let's talk some baseball. Now, I got to admit, I'm a little bit hungover, a little bit foggy in my dome right now. Didn't drink last night, didn't go out, didn't party, but something's not quite right. I'm having trouble shaking it. And the reason for that is something happened that was so close to being so epic. A night that we'll never forget. July 23rd, 2014. It was going to be one of those nights where people could say to you, where were you July 23rd, 2014? And you probably would have known. Because it looked like it was going to be the night we saw a 41-year-old fat man throw a perfect game. Bartolo Colon was perfect through 7 2/3 in Seattle. 7 2/3. And the fight for the documentary rights was already on. You know, what if I told you that a 300-pound juicer had the night of his life and it did not involve a fork and a knife? You probably wouldn't believe it. I mean, sure, Big Bart was a Cy Young Award winner back in the day, but it was also back in the era. The era. Who knows what kind of PED gravy he may have been peaking on back then. I know Bart. I know Bart still has the game to properly arrange the potatoes, proteins, and pork rinds and drop a perfect plate. But a perfect game? Hell no. Not unless that game is against Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi. At least that's what I thought. That's what I thought until I saw him cruising against the Mariners. And I realized I was about to witness the greatest moment in baseball history.
Effectively doing all afternoon. The 0-2. Swing and a miss. Down he goes. 20 up, 20 down for Bartolo Colon. And now Robinson Cano. And Jim, to me it's hilarious. Before the game, one question about Bartolo Colon in the pregame briefing with Terry Collins, and here it was. One of the beat reporters said, after a long silence, because everybody was out of stuff to say, how's Colon? 2-word answer from Terry Collins. He's fine.
He's fine.
Well, yeah, he's fine. That's an understatement.
Yeah, I'd say. He sets down the first 20 guys he faces. I mean, we were on the verge of the greatest moment ever in baseball. Ever. Ruth calling his shot. Fisk waving it fair. And Bartolo setting down 27 straight. And his catcher blowing out his back, trying to lift him up to celebrate. That's where I thought we were headed. That's where I was hoping we were headed. But with just 7 outs remaining, in stepped jerk of the night, Robbie Cano.
This is the highest hurdle Colon will have to jump over in this lineup. Robinson Cano, 329 hitter. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The kick and the pitch. Swing, lifted in the left. Base hit, Robinson Cano. Don't you know? In front of the left fielder, Eric Young Jr. Wow. Another one that was up, and just a little slash of a swing by Robinson Cano to spoil it, and this crowd responds in kind.
Yep. Jerk. 6 2/3, I want to say, not 7. Come on, Robbie. What a buzzkill. What a record scratch. What a cooler. Heartbreaking, devastating, player hating. Look, I know Cano's got a safe face for the Mariners. I mean, you cannot get paid what he gets paid and let your team get perfect gamed by a guy who looks like one of the hot dog vendors. But I wish they would have. Because I would have suggested that Bartolo Colon would have hit for the cycle before he'd sniff a perfecto. I want a bum out. I wanted that so badly, and I don't root. But I say this every single day almost. I do root for good things, or I root for things to talk about. So I was rooting for that. I'm not going to lie. Big bum out. I'm still kind of hurting. We're all disappointed, but as disappointed as we are, let's do the right thing, and let's tip the cap and get that man some Cold Stone. Good job, Bart. Hell of a job, Bart. Gave it a great look. You know, I've said that the perfect game is now the new no-hitter, and the no-hitter is now the new shutout. If Bartolo Colon threw a perfect game, the perfect game's the new 4-hitter. Yeah, look at it, too. I am the Walrus, back for more. Hey, Walrus, stop tweeting at me. Man, give it a rest. He writes, it's okay that Bartolo Colon didn't finish off that perfect game. We're still going to erect a statue of him. Regards, Seahawk fan. The Seahawk fan is still taking some over that idea to erect a Richard Sherman statue. Not a statue for winning a Super Bowl, but a statue for winning the NFC title game. Not a statue for a pick six, but a statue for a deflection. The 12th man, you got to admit, that's pretty backwards. Pretty jacked up. Can I tell you this? I can see Seahawk fan taking some for wanting to erect a statue for Richard Sherman jumping the weekend. That not only jumped the day or the show, that could jump the weekend. I've got a pretty good feeling that next week I'm going to still be hearing that. All right, let's go to the phones. I appreciate you all waiting. We go to Southern California. Jeff in SoCal. Hi, Jeff. What's up?
What's up, Ron? How you doing today, man?
Good. How about you, Jeff?
Good, man. Hey, I wanted to call in about this Ray Rice thing. First of all, dude, Ray Rice, terrible move. You can't do that. You can't hit a woman. Second of all, though, Roger Goodell, man, after what Sterling did in the NBA, and Adam Silver came out and made that huge decision to ban him. Everyone in the NBA respected him, and for Roger Goodell to not make a stance like that is ridiculous. One more thing, Rome. How can you talk about there's no sports going on? WNBA. I'm out.
It's good that you got that in. And why do I think that was the reason you made that call? Hey, Rome, how can you say nothing's going on? WNBA, I'm out. He did make the comparison between Adam Silver and Roger Goodell. Adam Silver, faced with a crisis, steps in, brings the hammer down hard.
I am banning Mr. Sterling for life.
And is applauded by all the players for doing so. Something that David Stern never would have done. Something David Stern didn't do. Stern always looked the other way when Sterling got out of line. Stern wanted no part of dealing with Donald Sterling. He figured he would just go away. He figured they don't matter. They're terrible. I mean, even worse yet, figured he was sick and he wouldn't be there. Not Silver. Unlike Stern, Silver stepped in, manned up, took responsibility. Now, Roger Goodell has come in with a very heavy hand in a lot of cases. Roger Goodell was the new sheriff in town. Roger Goodell had a code of conduct policy, which he upheld. So I'm trying to make some sense of this. You know, at first glance, I'm looking at it, and it seems like it doesn't jive at all with some other penalties that he's thrown down. I mean, you smoke pot a couple of times, you're looking at a 1-year suspension. How is that worse than punching a woman in the head and knocking her out and dragging her out of an elevator? I understand that you've got the Players Association in the middle of this thing, but I really need to hear that from him. How is that not worse? He punched his fiancée. He knocked her out cold, and we have it on videotape. That's something else different about that. It's on videotape. We see him dragging her out of an elevator. I mean, I'm stunned. How do you reconcile that? Why is that only a 2-game penalty? Hey, Rome, Robinson Cano has disrespected the game by getting a base hit in the 7th. He has no respect for baseball, for his opponent, or for himself. Colby Lewis. I wonder about other guys around the NFL. Guys that are getting hit, dinged, and suspended for illegal hits on the field. You go high on a guy, you knock a guy out, you do it more than once, you're looking at a couple of games. That's as bad as hitting your wife or fiancé and knocking her out? Domestic violence is not worse than on-the-field violence? Hitting a tight end in pads is as bad as hitting a defenseless woman. Oh, the tight end was defenseless. So hitting a defenseless tight end is as bad as hitting a defenseless fiancé. Don't get it. Don't see it. Waiting for the commissioner to explain it. Terrell Suggs says, I need to see more from Joe Flacco. I really do. What I really need to see from him is an F-bomb or two. Jamal Charles. Fantasy player, don't sweat that. No holdout. They hooked him up. You can still draft him.
Fantasy alert, fantasy alert, fantasy alert, fantasy alert.
And one of the all-time beefs, Dean Cain v. Matt Leinart. You knew that would happen eventually, right? Couple of guys, couple of athletes, good-looking guys, same town, TMZ. I mean, they were on a collision course, right? Dino and Matty. Let me tell you something. And I like both these guys. Honestly, I do. I like them both. I really do. But this town is not big enough for Dean Cain and Matt Leinart. It just isn't. So it's only a matter of time before those haymakers got thrown. And my man, Joel Embiid's at it again. Best guy on Twitter. Joel doing what he does. An incredible Photoshop of Rihanna. I want to congratulate him, in fact. Riri is not just sliding into his DMs. She's now rocking his jersey. Check out his Twitter feed. There's a picture of her rocking his jersey. All right, so maybe it's a Photoshop. Maybe. I can't confirm it. If it is, it's a good one. But I'm telling you, it's inevitable. This guy's game is so good. By the time he finally does play, you can forget about the jersey. She will be wearing his ring. And I mentioned yesterday on the program, I now follow him on Twitter, and I'm glad that I did, and I wonder what took me so long to do so. Good job, kid. Keep killing it. Keep killing it. We'll come right back. More phone calls when we do. Mike Freeman's coming up later on this hour. Rich Cho, Hornets GM, coming up next hour. And also, big game Bob Stoops popping off. I like it. He's getting that big game Bob Mo back. The mojo. He might once again be Big Game Bob. That story's coming up, too. Stay tuned. I love how some of you trolls are coming out with, hey, Rome, in Ray Rice's defense, we don't know what she said or what she did to set him off. You know what? I don't know if she said something. I don't know if she did something. I really don't give a damn. I don't care. I don't need to know. I know you don't hit a woman ever for any reason. I mean, what's the worst thing that she could have said or done to, quote, set him off? Whatever it was, it's still not justification for him knocking her out. Let's think about this for a minute. What's the very worst thing that a fiancé could do to her husband, soon-to-be husband? What could she have done? What's the worst thing? Just think about the worst possible thing that a wife could do to a husband. I mean, cheat on him, curse him out, endanger their kids, do drugs in front of their kids, take their kids to a crack house, and leave them there while you do drugs. I mean, I'm just trying to conjure up the worst thing imaginable. Whatever it is, cheat on him with his best friend. Which, by the way, makes that guy a worse guy than she is a wife, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever it is, I don't care. You can't punch your wife. You can't punch your fiancé. So for some of you trolls who are saying, in his defense, we don't know what she said or did to, quote, set him off. I don't care. There isn't anything. You know, on that list of reasons to go, there's not a list of reasons to go with your wife. We always talk about the list of reasons to go. Somebody insults you. Somebody threatens you. Somebody threatens your kids. Somebody spits in your face. All reasons to go. There is not an existing list of reasons to go with a female. John Harbaugh, he was asked about it today. Can't say that the head coach of the Ravens is helping any. Here's his response to the 2-game suspension.
It's not a big deal.
Stop right there. It's not a big deal? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. What, like Ray Rice tweaked his hammy and he's going to miss a couple of games? It's not a big deal. Next man up. One of the biggest names in the NFL and one of the most respected players in the NFL, a guy respected for his work on and off the field, punched his fiancée out and got 2-game suspension. Sorry, John, it is a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah, you know, that thing doesn't really ding my radar. Doesn't really blow my hair back. It's not a big deal. All right, so right off the jump, you're wrong about that. It is a big deal.
It's not a big deal. It's just part of the process. We said from the beginning that the circumstances would determine the consequences. There are consequences when you make a mistake like that. I stand behind Ray. He's a heck of a guy. He's done everything right since. He makes a mistake, all right? He's going to have to pay a consequence. I think that's good for kids to understand that it works that way. That's how it works. That's how it should be. And we'll move forward, and the next guy will have to step up, and then Ray will be back, you know, when the time comes. So it's not something that we're dwelling on, as you said. We're not worrying about it. We're just moving forward.
Convenient. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. No, a mistake is forgetting to pay the gas bill. That's a mistake. Punching your fiancé in the head is a felony. Do not confuse mistake with felony. Felonies are not mistakes. Most mistakes do not net you a felony. Consequence. And how about that crack at the very end? It's a good message for kids. Kids can learn from that. Fathers should sit their kids down and remind them not to punch mom in the head, or you might get a 2-game suspension. I mean, I understand that's a bottom line business and there's a next man up mentality, but is anybody going to own this? Anybody in that league? Stop apologizing for it. It's a despicable act. Why is everybody apologizing for it and making excuses for it? I mean, come on. Let's go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Kyle in Oshkosh. Hi, Kyle. How are you?
Hey, Rome. First time, long time. Thanks for having me on the show. Something that I want to bring up is I cannot justify or wrap my head around how the NFL is viewing this, and I'm sure America, and clearly America's thinking almost the exact same thing here. You can smoke dope and put a foreign substance into your body at your own risk, your own body, and be penalized for a year. Meanwhile, Ray Rice can create bodily harm on an innocent female and be suspended only 2 games. So I think the NFL is delusional in what they're trying to do and protect their brand. And I'm going to leave with that. Warren Aaron Rodgers becoming MVP again this year. I'm out.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much. Yeah, it makes no sense to me. I think he actually stated that pretty well. It's okay. It's not okay to burn blunts and to bake. It's not okay to put a foreign substance into your body where you're really not hurting anybody but yourself. And if you want to make the argument, yeah, but you're jacking other guys up. Right. Something the league loves and markets and sells. But those things in the league's eyes are worse than punching out your fiancée. And again, like I said, look around the nation. I mean, the NFL's got to protect its brand, and I get that and I respect that. But I wonder why they think that pot is worse for their brand than punching out a woman. And they're not coming, this is not coming from somebody who smokes pot. I don't smoke pot. I don't bake. I don't burn. I'm not some hippie. I've got a very open mind. And I'll listen to the argument that, listen, there's some effects to it medicinally, and it might actually help in treating concussions and brain trauma. It might not be as bad as players getting liquored up. I'll listen to all that. But that's not where I'm coming from. I'm not like, hey, we should have the right to smoke pot all day, every day, at the workplace and everywhere else. But how is pot so much worse for the brand, the look, the league, than a guy punching out his wife? It's not. How can you make that argument? It just isn't. It makes no sense to me. You know, and we're talking about brand. We're talking about the league's code of conduct policy. You know, what's starting to aggravate me is I got to wait for the commissioner to come out and explain it. I just keep banging my head against the wall like, why? Well, what is it? Raj, explain this. I'm really curious. How is it? And what if it was somebody anonymous? Would an anonymous player who, quote, wasn't so great off the field and so charitable, who had such a big name, had that anonymous player done that, would the punishment be the same? I wonder. Ray Rice is very important to a pretty important franchise. I wonder if it would be any different. How about Harbaugh saying he's done and said all the right things since? Congratulations. You haven't punched any women since that went down. Like, get off his back. And there's a silver lining in this. It's good for the kids. What a message it is for our nation's youth.
It's good for kids to understand that it works that way.
What's the message, Coach? Because the message I'm getting, and if I'm a kid, my message is, wow, that's an extremely violent act, but the punishment certainly does not fit the crime. It's not that bad. The message I'm getting if I'm a kid or anybody else is, all right, if I've got to commit a transgression, better to punch a female than to burn a blonde. That's the message. That's your silver lining. He's talking about consequences. Consequences. Exactly. This is the whole point. The consequences don't fit the crime because there aren't very many crimes I can think of that are worse than this. Am I missing something here? Help me out. Mike Freeman's going to join me in a few moments, and we'll have a conversation about it as well. Rich Joe, next hour. Speaking of the Ravens, Terrell Suggs has got some advice for Joe Flacco, which I'll get into. Dean Cain v. Matt Leinart is too much. I don't know if these guys have past history or what it is, but they're standing in the center of the ring and they're trading haymakers. Hey, Rome. Greg Camarillo and Robbie Cano are drowning. You have one life vest. Who gets it? Lee in Vancouver. Yeah, that's such a great question. Good job, Lee. Good job. I gotta tell you the truth. The dream killer killed what for me was a lifelong dream at that point. I didn't dream my entire life of Bartolo Colon, a 41-year-old fat man throwing a perfect game. It just seemed so out of the realm of any kind of possibility. But ever since I was a kid, I always dreamt of an NFL team running the table in reverse, and Camarillo stabbed me right in the back. I mean, they were on the verge. The Dolphins were on the verge of doing it. I spent my entire life dreaming, man, what would it look like and feel like if an NFL team ran the table in reverse? And it was going to happen until this guy did this.
3rd down and 8. 4 receivers, including Camarillo, for Cleo Lemon. It's caught by Camarillo. It's a foot race with London. Miami has won. Miami has won. A 64-yard touchdown.
Camarillo running away from Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and right into my worst nightmare ever. Little did I know the Lions would pull it off after. But at that point, I had no idea. So if there's one life vest, Cano gets it. Camarillo wrecked my life, or so I thought. And I had to tip my hat to him, man. That was a baller. That was a play he made. But I hated it. Mike Freeman joins me next. take this break. Been a pretty tense week, hasn't it? Tense topics. People getting very upset. It's supposed to be a dead time in sports. Stay with it. We're halfway through. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. Welcome back. Summer temperature has placed added stress on your battery, especially one that's about to fail. Get yours tested for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Welcome back. More telephone calls coming up in a moment, but we are joined right now by an NFL columnist for Bleacher Report. He is the author of 7 books. He is a panelist on Rome, our daily TV show on CBS Sports Network. Mike Freeman joins me once again. Mike, good to have you back. How are you?
Jim, how's it going, man?
Good. Mike, how about you?
All's good, all's good. Crazy day. Another crazy day in the NFL.
And that's why I'm looking for you. Let me start with the NFL's decision to suspend Ray Rice for 2 games for the incident with his then-fiancée. In your opinion, Mike, does the punishment fit the crime?
He got off, Jim, incredibly light. Even people, when you talk to around the league, who are usually back the commissioner. They usually want players to be fined lightly. A couple of personnel guys I talked to, a couple of scouts, were still in amazement. They thought Rice was going to get at least half a season, and overall, it just sends a really horrible message, Jim. Look, I know that it's not an exact correlation between when someone smokes pot and they're suspended and something like this, because the drug stuff it's automatic triggers. It's stuff that's negotiated collectively with the union, so Goodell has no real control over that. But the imagery of it, the optics of it, of a guy getting suspended for a year for smoking pot or driving under the influence versus a guy who knocks his fiancée out cold and drags her body out of an elevator, and he gets 2 games. It's just it just looks bad. And it looks like the NFL doesn't really care about this issue, and it makes Goodell look soft on it, which is just it's just pretty shocking that he got such a light suspension.
Mike Freeman joining us. So, Mike, why do you think that is? For instance, if even the NFL people you talk to who generally side with the commissioner were expecting at least a half a season, why do you think Goodell only gave him 2 games?
They think it's because Ray Rice, when he met with Roger, basically gave a pretty good story that Roger kind of bought. And Roger basically said, okay, you did wrong, but I like what you said. You went to a pre-trial sort of hearing, or you had this, you didn't go to court on this. You took other steps to sort of right this wrong. You've admitted your guilt. You've come clean. So I'm going to lessen the penalty because you've come clean, you've admitted your guilt, and you've taken other steps to show contrition. And that's what they think. They think Ray Rice talked a really good story, and Goodell's going to punish him for what he did, but not harshly because of that. But there's just, Jim, this whole image. You've seen that tape. You look at that tape of him dragging her out the elevator. He knocked her out. There's stories about what she may have done to him. It doesn't really matter. He's an NFL player, and she's a small woman, and he knocked her cold. And that's just not something you're supposed to do. That's just not appropriate behavior for anyone. And the league is the top dog in sports. They're the big boys. They're the ones setting the example for everyone else. So what kind of example are you setting? And that's the big issue here.
Mike Freeman joining us. I agree with you, Mike. I can't imagine what he could have told the commissioner to make the commissioner feel better about that to lessen the sentence. Bottom line, what kind of a message does this send about the league's handling of domestic violence?
It has not been a really good month or 2 on this issue. You had what's happened in Carolina with that guy. There are a couple other things. It has not been a really good month. And this was going to be, Jim, what really kind of has everyone around the league kind of really a little taken aback is the Ray Rice situation is going to be the one thing where the league can sort of take a firm stand and send a message that this kind of behavior, no matter what some woman may have done to you, this kind of behavior is completely inappropriate and we will not stand for it. Instead, they sent an opposite message. To answer your question, the opposite message was, you hit a woman, 2 games, you're all right. You'll be fine. Now, if you smoke a little pot, you're screwed. But hit a woman, 2 games, that's all you're going to get. That's the message that's sent. And in fairness to the league, the stuff with the drugs, as I said, is sort of, it's a whole separate issue, but still the optics of it, the imagery of it is bad. And the message sent is not a good one from the sports league that right now is the premier sports league in our country, the one that likes to set examples, the one that likes to talk about how it sets examples, isn't doing that.
Mike Freeman's an NFL columnist for the Bleacher Report, and I think the point's well made. Those things may have been collectively bargained as it relates to drugs, but juxtaposed against this, you're right, it looks terrible, and this is not a one-off. What you're talking about is Greg Hardy was convicted on charges of assaulting his girlfriend. Yeah. Washington tight end Fred Davis reportedly turned himself into police today regarding a charge of domestic violence, simple assault. You had written a piece on this recently. Mike, let me ask you this. When a player is arrested on domestic violence charges, very few players ever speak up about that. Why is that?
And that's a great question, and there's a sort of unwritten rule that players have where they just won't talk about this issue publicly. There's been 1 or 2, and mostly ex-players, but most current players feel like it's none of their business, and I'm just going to leave it alone. And that's the wrong approach. I mean, the approach is if more guys condemn this type of behavior, then it would be lessened. There just wouldn't be as much of it. If you made this so that whenever anyone did it, they just felt so ashamed and embarrassed, and other players talked about how they should be ashamed and embarrassed, you would see a lessening of this. You would see less of it. And that's not happening because players feel like it's none of their business. Now, players will talk. I mean, when the whole issue with Donald Sterling came up, you couldn't shut players up about it. They'll talk about everything. They'll talk about race. They'll talk about PEDs. They'll talk about money. But on this, they don't say anything. Most of the time, players say very, very little, and this is a big issue, and this is a big problem why I think this happens the way it does.
How much of an issue is it around the league? It's tough to know exactly how often this sort of thing goes on, but is it a big problem? I mean, put aside the fact that nobody talks about it. That's a problem in and of itself. But what about the issue itself? How big of an issue is this? How prevalent is this, if you had to guess?
Well, I think you're right in what you said. It's hard to really kind of put a finger on it. There's no real hardcore numbers over this that you can point to. I just know that the league really is kind of befuddled by it, and they don't know how to handle it. Now, to me, what happened today with Ray Rice is it only adds to the problem, because if you're really confused how to handle it, one way to handle it is set a real hard example, and they didn't do that. So when I talk to league people and team people about, they're just so confused about it. They do all the right things and still players do it. Well, today wasn't one of those days where we did the right thing, but there's a general sense of how do we handle this. We try to do the right things. We talk about it, for example, at the rookie symposium. We tell them this is not the right way to do things. We remind them in seminars when we have league officials visit teams, and still this happens. So they're completely confused about why this happens, and no matter what they do, it seems like there's some really harsh case that comes up, and they just don't know how to stop it.
Mike, one last thought. The Panthers have said that they've been in touch with the league regarding Hardy, and, quote, they have to respect the legal process. What do you make of that? I mean, is it a legal issue, an NFL issue, or both?
I think it's both. But, he was found guilty by a judge who heard everyone's testimony and sided with the woman who accused Hardy. So they could act if they wanted to based on that, but North Carolina has that quirky law where then he can appeal and it goes before a jury. So we have to wait for the court system is not necessarily valid, because the NFL hasn't always waited for the court system. They haven't done that before. They didn't do that with Ben Roethlisberger. There was no case, and he got suspended. They could do whatever they want, and often do, but on this, they choose to take the slow route and the easy way out. And in that case is just as bad as this Rice case. It's in some ways it's even worse. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do there too. And then there's Irsay, Jim, and how that's going to turn out. And if Irsay somehow gets off light, that's going to have some issues. So this is going to be an interesting few months in the league, and how they handle punishment and where it goes from there. And if they go light again, if they go light on Hardy, if he is found guilty again, then that's going to be even crazier.
No, for a league that's so concerned about its image, it certainly has taken a battering last several months. Mike Freeman, NFL columnist for Bleacher Report, the author of 7 books, and a panelist on Rome as well. Mike, thank you so much. Always good to have you.
Thanks, Jim. Always good to be on.
Take care, bud. Mike Freeman. A lot of good issues there. You know, this whole point of it's a legal issue, let the courts handle it. No, it's not. I mean, it is that. Certainly it is that. But it's also a brand issue, an image issue, an NFL issue. And his point is exactly right. They don't always wait for the league. There's a code of conduct policy. The commissioner's got the hammer. He doesn't need to wait. Is it good or bad for business? Domestic violence is not good for business. He could do something. And he should have done more, I think. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 2. If you heard something there that you want to respond to, go ahead. If you're on hold, you definitely want to hang in there because I will get phone calls in. 1-800-636-8686. Jamal Charles gets a new deal. It worked. Threatened to hold out, and it worked. Dean Cain v. Matt Leinart. Come on, fellas. It's a big town. It's got to be big enough for both of you. Stay tuned. Dear Jim, I've got complete disrespect for John Harbaugh. What a jackass. I thought that guy was a red ass when it came to discipline. He's just another NFL punk. Bleep him. Damien in Vancouver. Yeah, I mean, to John, it's just not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Just not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Ozzie Newsome apparently called the suspension, quote, fair. That from Pro Football Talk. This part's incredibly rich. Rice doesn't say whether he'll appeal. Can you imagine appealing that? What, is he really considering appealing that? A 2-game suspension. Third hour's coming up next. This is CBS Sports Radio. Keep it right here. O'Reilly Auto Parts Studio. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Welcome back. I am Jim Rome. Go to our third hour. We've been talking about Ray Rice. I will continue to talk about that, but let me just throw a few more things out there. Yet another reason why the L.A. area, the L.A. market, does not need the NFL. Honestly, the NFL is not going to want to hear that, but I mean, we're 20-plus years in. We don't have football. We're moving along pretty well without it. People don't really seem to miss it. They turn on their TV every single weekend, and there's the NFL. Imagine if you took football out of Buffalo, or Pittsburgh, or Kansas City, or Detroit, New York. Take it out of L.A., and people are like, did we ever have football here? Can't miss what you never had, right, Rome? Were there really ever 2 NFL franchises here at one point?
It's 2 for me.
Well, anyway, another reason why L.A. doesn't need the NFL is we have TMZ. You see, football comes 16 Sundays a year. Hollywood beef drops 365 days a year. And the latest beef begs the question, who you got? Heisman or Superman? In this corner, actor, Ivy Leaguer, former Man of Steel, Dean Cain. Good dude. In this corner, national champion, first-round draft pick, former NFL quarterback, Matt Leinart. Fellas, touch gloves and come out swinging. I mean, what the hell do these two have in common? Leinart and Cain. If anything, I think they'd be boys. I think they'd be friends. Wingers. What do they have in common? Well, one thing, obviously, Johnny Manziel. And one of Harvey Levin's foot soldiers ran down Dean in a grocery store parking lot and lobbed him a Manziel question. And then Dean just sucker punched Matt Leinart. Cain brought the pain.
What about Johnny Football? Football. He's like Johnny Hollywood. He was hanging out with Leo DiCaprio, Bradley Cooper the other night. He went from Bieber to DiCaprio. I mean,
listen, good for him. He's a great player. He won the Heisman. He's a freshman. He's an unbelievable guy. And his time in the NFL, it's a whole new world. I hope he does well. He's got the physical gifts, but he's not your typical NFL quarterback. Right. So I hope. He's an athlete, but there's a lot of athletes in the NFL. So I don't know. I don't know how he's going to do. I do remember another quarterback back in the day coming out and being a high draft choice and hanging out with the Hollywood starlets and stars and never really doing that well. I didn't say any names that came out of USC wearing number 11.
Okay.
But that can happen. I'm not so sure.
He's still living the dream. I live in Hermosa. I was driving back home. I saw him in Manhattan Beach with a bombshell. He's still...
I'm not saying Matt Leinart can't get ladies, but he can't get a contract in the NFL now.
Interesting comparison. Wow.
Is there a doctor in the house? Somebody comb the clubs to check Leinart's vitals. That is the most violent actor on ex-NFL or crime I have seen since the epic Luke Perry Achilles Smith war back in 2004. How many things about that are funny? I mean, he was just going along, Dean Cain, and making sense like, hey, listen, Johnny Manziel is a different type of player. He's a great athlete, but what may have worked for him in college may not work in the NFL. I mean, he was breaking it down. It made sense. If he'd stopped right there, nobody would have thought anything. But then he brought in that, other guys have run around with Hollywood starlets, no names mentioned. And I like the way you can see he reaches back into his car to put in his detergent. He comes back out. He addresses the guy on camera, puts something else back in the car, comes back out. And then he says, other guys have done this. No names mentioned. Number 11, USC, Matt Leinart. I mean, that sounded like a pre-existing beef, didn't it? Like, where'd that come from? Now, if you think that put Leinart to sleep, then you did not see his timeline. You didn't read his tweets. Because Matty fired right back. Leinart said, quote, some people should stick to their day jobs because they couldn't cut it. Stick to being D-list. Boom! Kane Leinart is like Balboa Drago with a dash of Frost Nixon. I mean, what's next? Jason Priestley lobbing bombs at Gino Torretta? Joey Harrington delisting John Stamos? I'm going to call the fight a draw. And I hate to see these guys swinging on one another. I'm going to call it a draw because I think both these guys are out on their feet. And I'm going to call this a cautionary tale for Johnny Manziel. Ball up, John. Ball up. Or 10 years from now, you'll be getting owned by Mark Harmon. Dean Cain, coming with some serious heat. He came in hot.
I do remember another quarterback back in the day coming out and being a high draft choice and hanging out with the Hollywood starlets and stars and never really doing that well. I didn't say any names that came out of USC wearing number 11.
Okay.
But that can happen. I'm not so sure.
He's still living the dream. I live in Hermosa. I was driving back home. I saw him in Manhattan Beach with a bombshell. He's still...
I'm not saying Matt Leinart can't get ladies, but he can't get a contract in the NFL now.
Interesting comparison. Wow.
Dean Cain... I'm not going to say I know Dean Cain real well, but the encounters I've had with him, he's a very agreeable guy. Very nice guy. He's sharp. But he came in hot. There's got to be a pre-existing beef, right? Something must have happened. That's pretty gratuitous. Like I wonder if Dean's just hanging out at the parking lot looking around for TMZ. I got something for you, TMZ. And the way Leinart came back with, hey, D-list. Shut your mouth, D-list. It's like, hey, Dean. Hey, TMZ, what's up? Hey, Dean, what do you think about Johnny Manziel? I'm glad you asked. I think Matt Leinart is a loser. Straight fire. We've been talking about Manziel for a couple of years now. Nobody's gone to the Matt Leinart thing. Hey, Matt, what do you think about Dean Cain? Oh, that D-lister? Straight fire. Hey, but that's how it goes sometimes. Athletes, actors... Some athletes want to be actors. Some actors want to be athletes. They don't always mix. I don't suspect you'll ever see Joey Lawrence and Cade McNown in the same club. Luke Perry and Achilles Smith. We don't need football. We got celebrity beefs in this town. I'll never forget that time that James Vanderbeek once dangled Heath Schuler off a balcony by his feet. Hollywood legend. Got my money, Schuler? I don't know how much longer I can hold you, Schuler. Vanderbeek, man. That's just not a guy you want to cross. Shug, Vanderbeek, just some dude you don't cross. Tommy from NC at Jim Rome. TMZ shouldn't interrupt Dean Cain while he is bagging groceries. Gonna get dude in trouble. He was not bagging groceries. He was shopping. He was not working. Does this sound like a guy bagging? It sounds like a guy in a parking lot putting his groceries in his car. It was probably a Range Rover or something like that.
I do remember another quarterback back in the day coming out and being a high draft choice and hanging out with the Hollywood starlets and stars and never really doing that well. I didn't say any names that came out of USC wearing number 11.
Okay.
But,
like, hey, wake up, Rome. He's helping some old lady put her groceries into the back of her car, the back of her Buick. No, he's not. Who you got? So I will end this take the way I started it. Who you got? What's next? He's rocking the orange vest, and he's going to go around the parking lot and round up all the shopping carts? I'm going to call it a draw. They're out on their feet. Got Rich Joe coming up a little bit later on. All right, quick timeout. Do not hang up. Guaranteed phone calls coming up next segment. Do not hang up. If you're on hold, there's a very good chance you're going to be on this show next segment. Do not hang up. Stay tuned. Reaction to that last take, and then we go to the phones. Jimmy, I lived through the dark, vicious Rick Meyer, Benjamin Bratt wars in the early 2000s. Let's not go through that again. It's just sad. Rick Meyer and Benjamin Bratt. I don't remember that feud, but I do remember Benjamin Bratt. Benjamin Bratt and I went to UC Santa Barbara at the exact same time. In fact, not only did we go there at the same time, but I remember Benjamin Bratt. I'd see him in the dorms. Man, he was a great guy. Great guy. And I remember even in college, Benjamin Bratt used to be in theater. And he was just one of those really good guys. You'd see him at a party or hanging around a keg, and we'd all hang out. And he'd be like, hey, why don't you guys come and see my play? And it's not like people were really into doing that unless you kind of had an eye for it. But he was such a good guy that we would. And I thought to myself, that's kind of cool. That's different. He's got an extracurricular activity. You know, I don't know if this guy's ever going to win an Oscar or anything, but that's kind of cool for him. And then all of a sudden we get out and we go about our separate ways. And I see this guy start showing up in things. And he's on TV and he's in movies. And he's dating Julia Roberts for a long time. You know, it's just blown away by the whole thing. But I would see him at UCSB. We were in the same dorm our freshman year. Good dude. Never saw him again. And I do not remember him feuding and beefing with Rick Meyer. Vance Mack at Jim Rome. Jim, I think Leinart took out Kane at second base while trying to turn 2 at a rock and jock softball game. Something had to have happened. Adam in the 503 at Jim Rome. If Kane is collecting carts, then Leinart is the knob spinning the pizza guitar on the sidewalk. Like I said, I would think that these guys would be in Nobu like each other's wingman. Or in Hollywood, at a club. You know, 2 good-looking guys. One was an actor, one was an athlete. Actually, both athletes. Both actors, I guess. I'm surprised. All right, let's go to the phones. We go to Detroit. Mike in Detroit. You're next up. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Good. You?
Good. Hey, first of all, I want to say I'm not going to try to make this out to be a race issue, but we don't know what happened inside that elevator. Ray Rice is a black male, a young black male in his 20s. Dealing with a black female, man, I'm in my 40s. Been dealing with black females my entire life. They have a way of just going off on you in a way that you would not believe, man, that will make you go straight lose it on him. I don't know what happened inside the elevator, but Ray Rice is a black male. He's dealing with a black female. She could have went ham on him in the elevator. Who knows? And this could have been his first time he ever hit her like this. It just happened to be caught on surveillance camera. We don't know. But all I'm saying is, as a black man, and he's a black male, dealing with a black female, he's dealing with a totally different breed, man.
Lay it out for me, Mike, because I really don't know. But, like, for instance, what are we talking about here? Why is dealing with a black female different than dealing with any other female? What are you getting at exactly?
Exactly what I'm saying is wrong, is that black females are different. I'm not trying to go anywhere with this.
How so? What do you mean different? Different than what? Different how?
With a black female, I just don't want to get deep into it right now because you don't have a lot of time for me to explain it to you.
I got all the time in the world.
All I'm saying is, man, is dealing with a black female, man, is totally different from what you are used to. That's all I want to say about it.
All right, you got it. I will say this. First of all, respectfully, don't tell me how much time I have. I know how much time I have, and I've got all the time in the world for this. What do you mean by that? You don't really have time for this, Rome. No, I do have lots of time. Mike, I'll be the judge of how much time I have. I know a clock I'm working with. I've got plenty of time for this. I especially have time for that conversation. So his point was, he started the phone call off by saying, I don't want to make this a issue of race, but anytime somebody starts with, I don't want to make this into an issue of race, it's about to be made into an issue of race. His point is, that's a young black male dealing with a young black female, and I'm a black male in my 40s, so I know what I speak of. Dealing with a black female is a totally different deal. And I said, how? I don't really get that. How? He said, I don't want to get into it. I'm just telling you. He essentially gave me, I don't want to get into that right now. And then he went back to, he's like, you just don't know. You don't know. You haven't dealt with, quote, black females. No, that's my point. I don't know. That's why I kept asking, what do you mean? What do you mean? You don't know. No, right. I know I don't know. I don't know where you're going with that. He also said, and he went back to something I said earlier, that a number of you are trying to say, we don't know. We don't know what she said. We don't know what she did to, quote, set him off. He just said, how do we know she didn't go ham on him in that elevator? And again, my point to this is, I don't know what she said. I don't know what she did, and I don't care. There's nothing she could have said or done in an elevator to justify her NFL fiancé knocking her cold. Give me a scenario. What could she have said or done to, quote, justify that felonious behavior? There isn't one. Did she pull a gun on him or a bazooka or run him over with a tank? Listen, I'm not saying that she wasn't pushing buttons. I'm not saying that she didn't say something extremely offensive. I don't know. I'm not saying that, quote, she didn't start it, whatever it was. I'm saying you walk the hell out of the elevator and you walk out of that hotel before you do something extremely stupid or felonious. Take a nice long walk. Say, you know what? I really cannot be here right now. I'm afraid of what I might say or what I might do. I'm going to get myself the hell out of this situation right now. You know, what are you saying? Lee in Vancouver tweets at Jim Rome. Uh-oh, here we go. That's the first tweet I got 20 seconds into that phone call. Uh-oh, here we go. Let's go to Denver. Lorraine in Denver. Hi, Lorraine. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. You're on the air.
I don't care. I don't care what she did to him. You do not lay your hands on another person. And I don't care if she is black, white, or yellow. It makes no difference whatsoever for him to have knocked her out. That they're knocking her out unconscious is wrong.
Lorraine, you're very angry, I can tell. You're very angry about this, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Right.
Because I don't care. It's the same thing for a female. You do not lay your hands on someone. And he knocked her out unconscious. And that's okay because she's black And he's some black male?
Yeah, I don't understand it myself either, Lorraine. That's why I tried to ask the caller, where are you going with that? Where are you going with that? And he just said, look, you don't know, Rome. You don't know. And my point was, you're right. I don't know. Explain it to me. And he said, I'm not going to get into it right now. I'm just telling you, quote, black females have a way of getting at people and making them very angry. That's a young black male, and she's a young black female, and I'm a 40-something black male. And let me tell you something, Rome. I know. I've been there. I know. You don't know, but I know. Listen, I've been around pretty crazy people. I've been around very manipulative people. I've been around people that can push buttons. I've been around people that can really get under your skin, in your head, and enrage you. I get it. I understand that. You're a professional football player. You're a young, strong male. You can't hit a female. You cannot hit a woman. Get the hell out of the elevator. Get out of there. Get out of that situation. No matter what she said, and maybe she said something extremely offensive, maybe she said something to set him off, maybe she was looking to get a rise out of him, maybe she was looking to enrage him, maybe she had some agenda. I have no idea. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I just know that whatever it was she did or said, it doesn't justify that behavior, and if you're Ray Rice and you're as good a guy as everybody says you are, you get the hell out of there. You leave. You leave. You take a long walk around the block. You walk home. And I don't care if she, quote, disrespected you, enraged you, you cannot punch a woman. This email says, wow, I didn't think it was possible. Mike's call was even more ignorant and ridiculous than the Down syndrome equals homosexuality call. Congrats, Mike, you did the impossible. Eric in Boise. And there it is. There's the who you got. Who you got? Mike in Detroit or the caller who tried to equate Down syndrome with homosexuality? Man, we have had ourselves a week. A week. We have had ourselves a week on this program. On that note, keep your calls coming. In fact, maybe don't keep your calls coming. This tweet reads from Fang Fox at Jim Rome. He writes, as a black male, that was the worst effing take ever. Tell Detroit to shut up and work on that whole bankruptcy thing. You just said, as a black male, that was the worst bleeping take ever. Well, you know. And look, if I'm African American, I'm really upset about that call. It's a terrible thing to say. You don't know black women. You don't know what black women can do. What are we talking about? A different set of rules? You don't know? Yeah, I don't know. So somebody explain it to me, please. Can I tell you something? There are women that can enrage males of all colors, race and religion and everything else. It's incredible to me to hear something like that. You know, we've had a week when I have to look down the list of calls we've had and try to determine which one's not only the worst of the week, but the worst ever. I've never had a week where I've had more than one moment where I've said, you know what, I think that's the worst take I've ever heard. I've had at least 3 of those moments this week. The worst take I ever had moments. 3 in a week. I mean, in effect, what this guy's saying is, hey, Rome, don't judge. Don't judge. Don't judge Ray Rice because Ray Rice has a fiancée who's African American. And let me tell you something, black women can really push buttons. That's what he's saying. White women push buttons. White dudes push buttons. Everybody can push buttons. Get yourself out of this situation and run down the street. What do you mean by that, caller? Well, you don't have time, Rome. Oh, I got plenty of time for this. I may stay after the show is over. I may ask Doug Gottlieb if I can do his show today, because I got plenty of time for this one. Nope. You don't have time, Rome. Oh, I got all the time in the world. You guys don't want to go any deeper than that. All right, then. That's different. Just don't tell me I don't have time. I got time for that. I'm sure my next guest, Rich Cho, would understand that I went deep into his interview with it. But I'm going to do that next. Hornets GM, Rich Cho, on the other side. Man, we've had a week. And I'm not sure it's been a good one. Stay tuned. Call Quicken Loans at 800-QUICKEN or go to QuickenLoans.com for your free home loan review. That number, once again, is 800-QUICKEN, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS number 3030. You know, it's funny. I said that normally in the dead of summer, there's nothing to talk about. And we're just grinding and grinding and grinding and trying to find things to talk about. And that has not been an issue this week, has it? I wonder if we've heard the worst of the worst or if there's still more where that came from. We'll find out. We're running out of time today, but I've got a whole nother show for you tomorrow. Plenty of time. Yes, sir. Another show tomorrow. The problem with tomorrow is the show might only be 2 hours because Albie's week that was will probably be an entire hour. If we want to cover everything significant that happened during the week on the program, it may take an entire hour tomorrow. We are joined by the general manager of the Charlotte Hornets. He was hired by Charlotte back in June of 2011. He previously served as the GM of the Portland Trail Blazers. Charlotte went 43-39 last season. That was a 22-win improvement over the previous year. My guest is Rich Cho. Rich, nice to visit with you. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Jim?
Good. Rich, good to have you on. Let me first ask you, Rich, you are no longer the GM of the Charlotte Bobcats. You are the GM of the Charlotte Hornets. I know the change means a lot to the fans. Now that the team is the Hornets, what's it mean, though, to you and the organization?
I think it means a ton. The city really wanted the name change, and the team listened to the fans. And, there's a great tradition here going back to Muggsy Bogues and Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning and the purple and teal. And back in the day, the team led the whole league in attendance for a number of years. So the fans are really excited about it. I think the players are excited about it. And the whole organization is excited about it.
Rich Cho joining us. All right, Rich, you signed Lance Stevenson last week. We know he can certainly play, but he may have a little bit of baggage. What kind of conversation did you have internally and with Stevenson before you made that deal?
Yeah, we had, as with any free agent we sign or trade we're looking at or draft pick, we do a ton of background work, and we had conversations internally. Also talked to a number of ex-teammates of his, ex-coaches of Lance's, and we got a lot of positive responses. And so I know that there's some issues out there with Lance, but I think he brings a lot to the table on the court, and we're looking forward to having him be a big part of the team.
Rich Cho is the GM of the Charlotte Hornets. Rich, last summer you signed Al Jefferson as a free agent. He came up with a monster season. He battled serious pain to keep on playing in the playoffs. How significant was his addition in terms of impact on the court and off it?
Yeah, it was really huge for us. Al was, he's one of the best low-post players in the league, and he had a big season for us. Wound up being third-team All-NBA. And not just the on-the-court stuff, but off the court and in the locker room, he was huge for us. Just his veteran presence and talking to the young guys and being a good sounding board for everybody. And, I think it tells a lot. Just it's great for the organization to get a big free agent like Al last year to come here, and then having Lance Stevenson come here as a free agent too, and just going back before that, having Gordon Hayward agree to the offer sheet to come here. I think all that's a positive trend for us.
Rich, you come with a totally different point of view and some different ideas. For instance, when you first arrived in Charlotte, you developed a scouting database that was incredible both in terms of scope and the investment required. What types of problems were you looking to solve with that database?
Well, I think, the idea of the database is that to be able to have tons and tons of information available at your fingertips, whether it's a D-League guy, an NBA guy, a college guy, an international guy, basically anybody playing in the whole world to have information at your fingertips, whether it's statistical information, background information, which we call intel, just anything of that sort, medical information, injury information, information that you get from coaches, from fellow players and teammates, just any scouting reports, of course. We just want to have all that information at our fingertips, and salary information also. And then we have a lot of analytical tools built into the database too. So I just think it's important to have as much information possible at your fingertips so you can make sound, informed decisions.
Well, for instance, Rich, one of the things that you did was you changed how players were evaluated from a number system to one that ranks players by terms such as franchise player, core player, starter, down to minor leaguer and below. As you look at it, what defines a franchise player, and how many of them are there really?
Really, there's not that many of them. I guess that's why they're called franchise guys, just because they can really change the way you do things, and they basically have to, carry your team. But there's definitely not too many of them, and they're the guys you can't trade for, basically.
Rich Show joining us. Rich, let me ask you, how would you describe Michael Jordan as an owner, and how hands-on is he?
MJ's been great as an owner. He's I get that question a lot, what it's like working for MJ, and the first thing I'll say is, one, he's ultra competitive, and in a great way. He's really wants to win, but at the same time, I think he's really smart from the standpoint of being very savvy. He's also been great about looking at the big picture and long-term effect of different transactions we do and things we're looking at, and looking at a long-term effect instead of just looking at and keeping our long-term flexibility instead of looking at just a short-term gain.
There's obviously a great deal of fascination with Michael Jordan. Always has been, always will be. A couple of years back, Rich, he was taking a lot of heat and, was called things like a disgrace and a failure as an owner in the national media. Did you get the sense that he heard those comments? Was he bothered by those comments? How did he react to it?
Well, I think you'd have to ask him how much bothered he would be by it or was by it, but he's very, very competitive. So he wants to win, and he wants to win in a big way, which is what he did as a player. And I think for me and other people here in the organization, we love that, that competitiveness. And when I try to find players, some of the guys we've brought in, they also fit that mold. Guys that are super competitive, like Kemba Walker, Al Jefferson, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. These guys are ultra competitive. And even when I hire staff, guys in my analytics group that I've hired, I hired one guy that's was state champ in high school in tennis. Okay, I'm a big tennis guy, and he was state champ in high school. I just like guys that are ultra competitive. Another guy I hired had a 3.9 in comp sci and math, and was on the basketball team at Virginia. So I just love guys that are really competitive, and I know that's that's important to MJ too.
Rich, I like tennis also. In fact, is it true that you were at the U.S. Open back in '91 when Jimmy Connors made that great run?
Yes, that's true. I saw Jimmy Connors in the first round pull one out against 5-setter against Pat McEnroe, and that's when he made that big run. He beat Paul Harhouse, I think, in the quarters, and he beat Krickstein. And so, I was there. Yeah, that was a fun tournament.
That was one of the greatest things ever. In fact, Rich, I actually saw him, I want to say, at the end of 1990 prior to that, because I was in Santa Barbara, and I was friendly with the guy that did his surgery prior to that run. So I saw Jimmy Connors one day at the track when I was just running the track at the local college, and I was just getting my start in my career, and I was just blown away. I mean, he had this unbelievable aura and mystique. So when you talk about you want to hire competitive guys, there aren't too many guys more competitive than Jimmy Connors.
Yeah, you're right. He was the ultimate competitor for sure, and I loved watching him play because of how feisty he was, and him, McEnroe, Borg, all those guys. Yannick Noah. I grew up watching those guys play, and I'm a huge tennis guy. I love tennis.
Let's not forget Nastasi and Gerolaitis.
Yeah, you're right. Those guys too, and Arthur Ashe, great player. Boris Becker, he was one of my favorite players growing up, and I still play a lot and watch a lot of tennis, and love going to the U.S. Open. It's a great event.
Stefan Edberg too. Rich Cho is the GM of the Charlotte Hornets. Rich, I could talk tennis with you all day, but we're out of time. It's good to have you on the show. Appreciate your thoughts. Let's do it again when the season starts.
Okay, sounds good, Jim. Anytime.
Good talking to you, Rich. Thank you. I definitely could talk tennis with guys like that. I love it. It's amazing, isn't it, the way the NBA is? I mean, never mind that old school scouting approach, gut, instinct, eyeballs. I think there'll always be something to that for sure, the gym rats, but it's getting more and more analytical. And this guy's got a database where he can call up any player in the world right now. He started as a Boeing engineer, then went to Pepperdine Law School, and ended up as a GM in the NBA. But he's got a database that has everybody playing basketball. I mean, could he pull up some 7-year-old kid in my kid's youth league? Probably. Rich Cho, GM of the Hornets. All right, we'll come back and wrap things up. Hey, Albie, I'm serious about that week that was tomorrow. That thing should be at least 20 minutes. If it's normally 4, it should be 20. This is CBS Sports Radio. Are you not an O Rewards member yet? Visit orewards.com and become an O'Reilly O Rewards member today. Start earning $5 back for every $150 you spend. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. This guy writes, Rome is obviously going with the long con. Pretended to kill the hack off and brought it back as a week-long event. When do we pick the champ, Rome? I vote for that last guy. Steve K in Des Moines. Each call brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Turn your favorite 5 Hour Energy concoction into a share of $100,000. For more details, go to 5houryummification.com. 5houryummification.com. Thank you for listening. My thanks to my crew. All you listeners, we got another day of this tomorrow.